Fox 2 News.
Joining us once again is our political reporter Ross Palumbo, also our political analyst Brian Sobel. Brian, we watched the president's speech together tonight. You were saying that you thought it was probably his best speech ever. What was it that you liked about it?
I think it was a moderate tone. He tried to reach out to not only people in the audience on both sides of the aisle, but to the American people. And I thought he accomplished that tonight, and the polling is indicating that.
Yeah, look at the last major speech from the president, Inauguration Day, and quotes like American carnage. Very negative. Today was very uplifting, looking towards the future, a message of unity, him reaching his hand out to Congress and Democrats.
But let's go to the Democratic response. You were saying you didn't hear the same message coming from Democrats after that. Brian, your thoughts on the Democratic, how they responded to what the president had to say?
I'll be brutally honest. I was disappointed by the Democratic response.
In what way?
Well, you have the president trying to reach out, trying to move the needle a little bit, and we get kind of the same commentary back. It's indicative of what's going on in Washington, D.C. These parties aren't getting along, and it doesn't really matter what anybody does. They're going to be criticized.
You know, I think the governor, I think the governor was trying to make valid points and refute some of the things Donald Trump was saying, but the way that they did it in that hokey setting in a diner in Kentucky, can anyone in America really relate to that? Can Californians relate to that image? And it did seem overly staged, even though his points did seem to be strong and valid.
Brian, let's talk about some of the things that President Trump laid out. He talked about immigration. He talked about a huge increase in military spending. He talked about immigration reform, and he talked about spending $1 trillion on infrastructure. He says that will create thousands and thousands of jobs. What are the chances that those things will actually happen?
Well, they're all going to be debated vigorously in Congress, one by one, and the Democrats, if they, for example, on infrastructure, agree, they'll help the president a little bit. If they don't, they're going to be the same sort of roadblock the Republicans were when President Obama was trying to get some things done. We've got to move this whole body politic to solution-oriented thinking instead of this divisive nature that we seem to have in Washington right now.
That seemed to be the president's message, though. He was saying real solutions for real people, trying to figure out the problems. And then, but tonight's speech is not about specifics. It's about a broad stroke approach to laying out all his legislative agenda. It's a bold agenda. He had a lot of things on the table tonight that he wants to try to get done. Now the next step, I guess, is just trying to move it forward.
Right. I mean, now the rubber meets the road. But he, much of his speech tonight went over the heads of the members of Congress, right to the American people, and we're seeing the American people are responding.
Yeah, he did set the agenda tonight. Not many specifics, but he did make some news. He talked about that voice program to help victims of illegal immigrant, those crimes, and he also talked about perhaps softening his stance on immigrants who are already here, perhaps providing a path to citizenship. So we never get complete details, a plan A, B, C, and D, but it was substantive, much more than we were expecting.
Brian, at one point he said they are going to wipe out radical Islamic terrorism, and that was a moment that stood out to you. Why?
Because he called it what he said on the campaign trail he would call it if and when he was elected president. He brought it out tonight, and he took his time hitting every word so that everybody understood what he was saying. In past speeches, and President Obama did not utter those three words for other reasons, but Donald Trump obviously thinks it's important to call these folks out.
Well, there is so much to talk about, so much more that we will be seeing unfold in the days to come. Brian, thank you.
You're very welcome.